This government, if you ask me the impression, Nigerians, go and ask every 10 Nigerians the impression, 9 will be telling you the same thing that I'm telling you. It's a government of pain. It's a government that will be remembered as a government that came to inflict hunger and pain and has not recorded any developmental stride. So it's a government of wastage. Nigerians' money that God has blessed us with, this government has come to waste it in every sector.
Comrade Chris Ojeikere is a political analyst. He's our guest on Nigeria Unfiltered. All right, let's have your impression about this government. How would you assess the state of the nation right now?
Well, I think I want to start by looking at it contextually. From the very beginning of democracy, the 5 regimes also we have had since the inception of democracy in 1999, the Fourth Republic. The first set of, elected national leaders that we had was General Obasanjo, retired, and Atiku Abubakar as his vice president. That regime was marked by its pursuit of reforms. Nigeria, before them, was considered the pariah state. They were able to eradicate that negative impression. They brought in what we call the GSM today, that is the liberalized telecommunication, which has provided jobs for millions of Nigerians and still doing so. They pursued our debts, cancellation of our debts that we owed internationally. They achieved that. They brought in eggheads to come and rule and to come and preside over the affairs of governance, and they succeeded tremendously. After that government, we had Yar'Adua, who concentrated on reforms. He concentrated on reforming the electoral process, and then he brought a lasting peace to Niger Delta through the amnesty. And then he concentrated in reforming the civil service. That was another very, great leap in our journey towards a democratic state. And then we had Goodluck Jonathan, who I describe as neither nor, that brought in elements of mediocrity, who actually did not make any mark that you could attach to him like this, but at least he left the nation stable. And then disaster started in 2015, when we brought in Buhari, whose government was a total disaster. And I recall that this present regime, this current government that we have today, were the ones, as a party, APC party, led by the president that we have today, that convinced Nigerians that if we all form a coalition under the APC, Nigeria was going to have a turnaround, because he, with his experience, the military general with his experience, have all the experiences they need, and Nigeria needs to have Nigeria turn around. So in 2015, we believed that story, and Buhari came in. That government was a disaster. Now, I have to go into all this context because I want to show you what led to where we are today. Now, that government of Buhari, we thought we could never see a worse government than Buhari's. And during that 8 years of disaster, there was a formation of what we thought was going to be a new crop of leadership, which now culminated in the 2023 election. Some people now felt that because the other people have participated, at least in the presidential level as president, we should give this current president the opportunity to put to practice and put to effect what he had always preached. He had preached democracy. He had preached rule of law. He had preached defense of human rights. He has preached Nadeco as a former Nadeco person and all of that. So Nigerians said, let's give him a chance. He claimed to have fixed Lagos, highly contentious, but he claimed to have fixed Lagos. Nigeria said, okay, if he fixed Lagos, he claimed to be able to identify talents that fix solutions, that fix problems and bring solutions. People like Yemi Osinbajo and so on. So Nigerians said, okay, let's give him a chance. Even though he had come out to say it was his turn, we thought that he was, in fact, he claimed to have been the most prepared person, because every other president you had, some confessed that they were not prepared. He claimed to have been the one who had prepared all his life for the presidency. And now we gave him a turn. Some of us didn't vote for him, but Nigerians, never mind what the election said and all of that, but it is assumed, we'll not take responsibility for it, since the Supreme Court have said he is the winner. So we gave him the chance. Today, what we have is a catastrophe. We have moved from a disaster that Buhari was to a cataclysmic situation. Now, what is this government identified for and with? I have just named what other governments were identified for and with. Since the president was sworn in Eagle Square, the recurring refrain from every single Nigerian, whether you are in the business sector, whether you are in the corporate sector, whether you are in the civil service, whether you are doing small businesses, or you are an enterprise or industry, the recurring refrain from every Nigerian that you would ask is that this is a government of pain, of hunger, and of anguish. That the only thing they get from this government as feedback of governance is that tariffs are being increased, is that electricity tariff is increased, telecommunication tariff is increased, fuel subsidy that at least we held on to, whether it was right or wrong, whether it was flawed or straight, Nigerians held on to that and didn't give the sharks the opportunity to hike prices in the market. He removed it unilaterally at Eagle Square in a bravado manner, whereas he hasn't thought of any way to cushion what will be the effect, which shows if in fact he didn't know that it was going to create an effect, it shows his lack of competence. If he knew, it shows his wickedness. So both sides of the sword is a two-edged sword. Now he removed it at Eagle Square. Since then up until now, Nigerian citizens cannot tell you these are the measures that this present president have put in place that is ensuring that they Nigerians are having their sufferings ameliorated. There is no ameliorating. When Buhari was there, who I describe as a disaster, he set up the Anchor Borrowers Program, which at least the North can say they benefited so much from. He produced a lot of young farmers in the North who were growing local rice. We don't have any such example. Rather, what we have is that in January, we are going to have to pay more taxes. And what is even more annoying is that the man who is put in charge of that committee for fiscal reform, Taiwo Yedele, tells us now that beyond the taxes, the tax collectors, that is the government in place, does not care what you do to make money. In fact, he said that in the Redeemed Church in Lagos. And he said, and I quote, he said, if you are a runs girl and you go out to sleep with a man and he gives you money, and you just pay your tax on it, we don't care what you do. And then he said further that any person who is into whatever business that the law, the tax law, does not anticipate and does not take into cognizance what he does. All he needs to do is to pay his taxes. If you follow that up with the policy of going to free criminals from jail, and you tie it up, there's a connection between a policy of government as spoken by his official that they don't care what you do to make money, and going to jail to free criminals to get them back in the street. So if you want to extrapolate, you draw a conclusion. The conclusion is that this government has a policy of trying to obliterate any lines between what is moral, what is good, what is legal, and what is legitimate, and what is illegitimate, criminal, or illegal. So that it's a policy of government with evidence. Now, that apart, if you come to government's responses to citizens' cries, this is the government that is guilty of the highest form of what you may refer to as abuse, first, of our electoral system. Since this government came in place, no civil society practitioner have been able to record a free and fair elections. All the elections that have been done since this government came into place have been flawed, and none of them have had any form of judicial redress. So you have that in place. INEC, that is flawed, that the election that they conducted in 2023 remained a very controversial election, the most controversial election in this country. When we have a very far less controversial election during Yaradua, as the president, admitted that the process that brought me into place is flawed, so I'm going to reform INEC. This government have never for one day acknowledged, despite the figures at our disposal, that they had a flawed election. So that tells you that they don't have any distinction between what is legal and what is illegal. Rather, You find government officials like the Federal Capital Territory, Minister Nick Wike, boasting about his influence in the judiciary. He has boasted about that severally, by implication and overtly, in many different fora. So this government, if you ask me, the impression, Nigerians, go and ask every 10 Nigerians the impression. 9 will be telling you the same thing that I'm telling you. It's a government of pain. It's a government that will be remembered as a government that came to inflict hunger and pain and has not recorded any developmental stride. I'll give you an example. Nigerians' maritime economy. The President Bola Tinubu, is from the southwest. That is where you have the maritime economy of this country. Nigeria's maritime economy is about $2.296 billion. That's 7 trillion naira. Now, that economy is totally underutilized. We have it there. The money you say you have saved from subsidy, which you yourself confess that you give to governors, and the states are in such deplorable situation, could have been plowed into developing that industry, and it will have return on investment. Now, Nigeria's textile industry is 6 trillion. 6 trillion. Between 2019 and 2023, Nigeria imported textile materials and clothing to this country to the tune of 1.4 trillion between 2019 and 2023. So we have a huge clothing industry, a huge textile industry. We have a textile factory that was functional in Kaduna. This government has not invested in that. Our mining potential can take us to about $25 billion in a few years. The potentials we have in mining will take us to $25 billion in few years. There is no productive economy that this government is investing in. Rather, this government is buying yachts, is buying a jet when the one there is still functional, and then taking 4,000 people on what he calls a climate change conference in Dubai. 4,000 people. Majority of them were concubines that the nation can testify to Dubai. So it's a government of wastage. Nigeria's money that God has blessed us with, this government have come to waste it in every sector. There is no. Our steel is one of the easiest to refine in the world. Our steel potential is huge. We are the second largest, possessor of deposit iron ore in the whole of Africa, next to Guinea. There is nowhere you will turn and you will see government investment. Look at the infrastructure that he's talking about. You will start to build a road that will take forever to build. You are building up till now, nobody knows what is it per kilometer, the cost per kilometer of that road. Umar, who is an engineer and a road engineer, today he will come, is within the region of 4 billion, next tomorrow is 8 billion, the other day is 1.something billion. He doesn't even know how much it costs. And you are building a road that you started from wherever you started in so-called Lagos area along that corridor, and you stopped there. You said in 2 years that you've done 30, and then you have spent about 3 trillion. That road cost is about 15 trillion.
You mean that the government has not impressed you in any form? Is that what you're saying?
If there is anything that has done so well, is to destroy our judiciary, to assault our democracy, like what happened in Rivers. Up till now, Fubara cannot give a historical record of why he was booted with military men out of government house and escorted out of government house like a criminal. Because what was going on there was purely a political crisis that has political solutions. But the government goes there and pulls him out. The man they replaced him with, who is the sole administrator, now spent in 6 months 200 and something billion. That's what he got from federal allocation in 6 months. 200 and something billion naira. In 6 months. That's what he got from federal allocation. That is 2 times the budget of my state. So what we are saying is that whatever you are going to have to say about this government will be negative.
All right, and your impression about the ministers. How would you assess this government? How would you assess the ministers?
Well, we would also say that the president works with, just as you have said, with people. What we have seen is that the government has favorite ministers. And the reason for their favoritism is known to the layman in the streets. The president wants to return in 2027. And so he has some people who he thinks are going to achieve that result for him. The triumvirate of...
He has the right to
Yes.
seek for re-election.
He has the right to seek for re-election. But you see, you have the right to seek for re-election democratically. Not by employing people like Wike, for instance, the most garrulous, minister that he has, who, if he had stopped at garrulity, would have been bad enough. But Wike's hands is in everything deplorable in this country. Abuja, the FCT residents that are praising him are all linked to government. The real residents of FCT who are suffering on a daily basis. I just watched a video where a lady who took the pains to invest over 6 billion on a particular garden got it destroyed in one day because Wike, according to the video, and the voice that was speaking in the video, wants to allocate that land to his cronies.
It's an allegation until proven.
Yes, it's an allegation, but there are several allegations, even in court, that he has grabbed land so much to the tune of 36 billion. $36 billion, not nairas. The other allegation, reported by a very reputable paper, the West African Weekly, tells us that Wike bought houses in Florida. He bought houses for his wife and for all his children in Winter Spring, Florida. The name of the street was given, the address number of the house is given. America, their own man, let me not call him their own man, Shaware. Shaware is from the same southwest as the president. So he will have no reason to be attacking his brother because we have a government of ethnicity where everybody employed by Tinubu is from the southwest. Shaware, trying to be a pan-Nigeria, went to Florida, dug up this case, and instituted a suit against it. What is the government here doing about it? Latest news we read, which we will also call an allegation, is that Wike tried to go and change the records in the Code of Conduct Bureau because when he declared his access to become minister, he refused to name those properties. He had bought them before he became minister. So there have been clear investigation into it, which the Digest have the Gazette have reported, West African Weekly has reported, giving us details that it is not just that Wike is buying land in Florida, and the wife, who is a justice of the court in Nigeria, claims to be an American and indeed a Democrat, and that's something lawyers will have to take up and test it, whether we allow for such dual citizenship, where a justice in Nigeria will be a member of another, a citizen of another country, and a member of a political party in that particular country. Now, Wike did not only do that. In Abuja here, the record is very clear that in the FCTA, Federal Capital Territory Administration, Hassan, I think Mariga is his name, who is the officer in charge of land resources, blew a whistle that Wike was taking up all the lands in Abuja. And the guy was harassed. It's we civil society that went to ensure that he didn't go to jail. He was arrested over what? So the evidence is clear that Wike, as the commander or captain in Tinubu's army, what is Tinubu's problem with Fubara in Rivers? The problem Tinubu inherited was Wike's problem with Fubara, wanting to be a perpetual governor of Rivers State. Even after he has left Rivers State and they have given him the FCT as minister, he still wants to preside over Rivers State. That is the problem. Is there any other problem you have as a journalist? The president had to intervene, of course, to his own advantage. So Wike is becoming an albatross in the president, in the president's regime. It's becoming an albatross because everywhere you go, it is either Wike against Chidin or the Kalu, Wike against Fubara, Wike against FCT land property owners, Wike against... Why? Is Wike the first president we have, the first minister we have in the Federal Capital Territory? So why is he everywhere? Why has the president not tried to rein in Wike?
The FCT residents are praising him, and they see him as one of the super ministers who is doing well.
Wike, before the election, was PDP to the eve of the 2023 election. And all of a sudden, 2 weeks to the election, Wike became APC. And records are there and video coverage of the violence Wike visited in Rivers State to ensure that APC is named. They never won that election as the winners of Rivers State. And since then, the violence footages are clear. Wike, I watched the video myself when Wike told the president that you owe me. And the president replied, I don't owe you anything. What did he do for the president that the president owes him? Okay, well,
Well, not their debating.
Okay, well, so still on the realm of speculation, what did Fubara do? Why Wike had to move the 27 lawmakers of River State against him? Wike did not make any secret of his involvement in the problem we have with democracy, especially in River State. Wike boasted that until Fubara will come to play ball to his own, intentions, there will never be peace in River State. And when he thought that Fubara has played ball, have submitted, he came out again after the so-called, lifting of the ban. Do you know or have any account of where the president wrote a letter and gazetted it and sent it to the two chambers of the National Assembly to debate over the matter of the emergency rule in River State? There's no record of that. Do you have any account of when the so-called coastal road was subjected to bidding and procurement processes? Do you have any account? Does the press have any account? There's no record of that. So we have a government that thrives on ignominy, that thrives on illegality, and Wike is a champion of that. He has no bounds. How can such a man have a bounds? Who by one stroke of inebriate press conference that he had with Shehu Kimbaloye obliterated his entire identity, vicariously impersonated his own father, who was a reverend, who is known in River State. Everybody knows their house. Everybody knows who Wike stayed with. And Wike said that his father was a manager of many corporations and that he was born with a silver spoon. Now, he didn't know that by doing so, he was obliterating his own ancestral identity. A man who would have no scruples to do that. How would anybody entrust that man with public office? He has no scruples. So, he is an albatross. We have how many ministers? About 42 ministers. He's always on the news for the wrong reason. He has quarreled with civil society people. He's quarreled with Adeyadu. He has quarreled with Dino Melaye. He has quarreled with all government officials. He is a bull in a China's club. He's going to break down everything if the president does not remove him from his administration. In any case, they are all going in 2027 by the people's will, the people of Nigerians' will. So if you want to talk about ministers, talk about other ministers. Umahi may not be perfect, but he's trying. Because I know that Umahi is going to operate according to the body language or whatever other language the principal speaks to him. But whereas that the constructions are not complete, I can testify that the East-West Road is under construction. The Lagos-Benin-Warri Road is under construction. There's the second Niger Bridge extension from Benin to Asaba and then to the second Niger Bridge. They are all under construction. They may not be completed yet. Wike's preoccupation is to break houses in Abuja and grab the land. Now, if somebody who works as a civil servant would blow a whistle, the person who is in charge of the land resources in Abuja will blow the whistle. What better, evidence that the president needs than to act and say to him, why not investigate these allegations? How can everybody in Abuja be lying against Wike? So Wike is a no-go area. They had an election in Edo State. Wike boasted. Only that they brought there was his cousin, who became the rec in Edo State. Then the police commissioner who presided over that election was his classmate. And he boasted that he has interest in that election and nobody will be able to do his relatives and his friends anything. And it's on record today, every civil society person in this country commented on the Edo election. From respected Odikalu to the former NEC, what's his name? The former NEC, Nigeria Electricity Regulation Commission Chief Sam Amadi, and to all other reputable organizations commented on that election. What's the result today? We have a governor in Edo State foisted on the people of Edo State. So there is no trajectory you will look at that you say, okay, look, Wike is doing well in this, or is a plus to the president's cabinet. So the president had better do well to remove him. If you look at other ministers, they need to come and sit down and tell us what they are doing. This is a government where you have to have ministers sit down to tell you what you were doing. During the days of Obasanjo, you didn't need ministers to tell you what you were doing. You were seeing what the ministers were doing. You were seeing Okoja-Iweala in the international scene, managing our economy, advising on sovereign wealth fund, advising on Nigerians to save. You were seeing Obi Ezekwesili, in fact, they named her Mrs. Due Process, because of the way she was particular about procurement. You were seeing what they were doing. So what are these ministers doing? They have to come and tell us on television. And when you go there, you don't see anything. You say you have completed 2 kilometers of a road that is going to run through Lagos and 7 states down to Calabar. You have just completed only 2 kilometers and you have spent 2 trillion to do that. So, 30 kilometers, and you have spent 2 trillion to do that. So we have an administration that thinks that they can continue to pretend and continue. See, they cook up figures. I read an article just written by Dino Melai. This government has borrowed over 5 trillion from the debt management offices statistics and data. That's where Dino Melai quoted it from. When he came, he met about 87 point something trillion. Now we have about 152 point something trillion. The government has borrowed 65 trillion. And it's only 2 years. And they say they are spending on infrastructure that are audio infrastructure. We don't see the infrastructure. The roads are not working. The president himself runs every day to France to go and get medical treatment. He constructed, or rather renovated, a VP's house. Up till now, I don't have information that the VP has moved into the house. The last time I had the information, the VP was not staying in the house. He bought an Escalade. He bought a yacht. So he bought a jet. What we are having is condominium. We are having government who has unlimited resources because the money shot up from the so-called dubious subsidy removal. I say dubious because there was no subsidy. What was happening was that people, cronies to governments of the day, had receipts, which they were just making money from the state purse. That's what was happening. They listed no crews, so there was no subsidy. So what he just needed to do was identify those criminals and jail them. He didn't have the moral courage to do that. Rather, he, in a bravado style, he wants to take credit for what never was. He didn't stop the crime. The only crime he stopped is that he's probably not paying those people the money, but he's spreading it himself. He wants to make his daughter the aloja of all markets in Nigeria. He's created a great crisis now in Edo State, where he brought the daughter to come and become the aloja. That is ancient to the Benin Kingdom, as the monarch of Benin told them. So his son, until he was stopped by the North, was already going around the country. This is a government where you have commander-in-chief of the armed forces man, daughter commander-in-chief of the armed forces female, son commander-in-chief of the armed forces youths. So we have nothing. If they don't know, let them know today that the Nigerian people have nothing that they can point to when they are looking at this government to say, look, this is how we are benefiting from this government. Small traders who go to Onitsha to buy textbooks and come and sell in Lagos or sell in this thing and make 800,000 naira will be paying 20% of that money if they put that money in the bank by January. That's the tax law. 20%.
Okay, let's look at Tinubu and 2027. Is it possible to dislodge him in the light of all that we have said, that they've not performed, you've given instances of why you don't think that they can come back? Do you think he can be dislodged in 2027?
Did you hear Obasanjo yesterday morning? He said it doesn't matter how many governors think that they are defecting. APC is finished. Tinubu will not continue beyond 2027. That is the uniform testing. That's the Baba of the nation, of the people of the nation. Tinubu will be stopped. Let me tell you, whatever, go and read history and read revolutions and so on and so forth. Everyone that have read history have come to the conclusion that power belongs to the people. What you need is a trigger. And hunger. When they fought the Civil War, Awolowo said hunger was better weapons than bullets. And it's right. He was pursuing that theory from Bernard Shaw, Arms and Demand, that hunger, food was a better weapon of war than bullets. And it's true. So the truth of the matter is that there is a united force of the Nigerian people. And that is why you find that those who are poetic in their delivery will tell you that in 2027 is Tinubu and APC against the Nigerian people. The party lines are obliterating. That is what ADC has come to represent. You are now finding Labour and PDP and the SDP all in the same bed because they are united by a common purpose. The purpose is that we have seen that this government of the day has completely pushed us to the cliff edge. And so it's an existential situation. And when you push people to an existential situation, they begin to think of survival. That is the first instinct of nature. So the truth of the matter is that he will be dislodged. Look, let me tell you, Tinubu cannot control every single person in INEC. He cannot control the, computer room in INEC. He cannot control each polling officers in the polling unit and each returning officer in the state. He will just use his influence as president that he has by the time his regime is coming to an end. And by the time his regime is coming to an end, that influence has so depleted that there is nobody who is going to be loyal to him. If you come out now on the streets to say you want to speak against Tinubu, there's no member, APC member, if you go to their arena to speak against Tinubu, no APC member challenges you. You only have some few bigots who are getting from the money directly. Their own members, who we deal with every day, are so disillusioned with the government and disillusioned with its performance that they are ready for any party or any group of persons or person who is going to lead Nigeria out of these woods. So it is no longer a matter of Tinubu. His mystique has been totally demystified. He has not been able to deliver results in 2 years running. And so people realize that, look, there is no reason why we should put our lives on the line for this man against ourselves, against our family, against our future, against our children. People need something to die for before they will die for it. So they have no reasons. As he behaves in the federal, that's how his state governors behave in the states. Those who are original APC, I'm not talking of this later day APC governors who are decamping because they are afraid of ESCC, sword of Damocles hanging on their head, which he threatens them with. But he doesn't have their loyalty, and even if he does, in the last 2023 election, APC lost about 8 states to the opposition party. So there's no mystery there. Tinubu is living, he's a man. He's just a single man. Nigeria well, America said they are God's own country, but I tell them, they borrowed that from us. We are the God's own country. We are so resilient. We have defeated every tyranny, dictatorship, Maradona or no Maradona, smiling or no smiling president. We have defeated all in Nigeria. So Nigeria is also going to overcome this tyranny, this oppression, this manipulation, and of cooking up figures and reading out statistics. You cannot do that to a people because governance is fed in the livelihood of the people. That is why our constitution says that the primary purpose of government is security and welfare. So you cannot tell me, look, I've taken care of you when I know I'm hungry. Words do not take care of that. These are feelings, these are responses, these are stimuli. And so you cannot tell me, look, I've taken care, Nigerians are now, economy has turned around, and I'm hungry. And for 2 years, a president have not been able to reverse hunger. The price of rice in the market, he met it at 7,000 naira. That is the APC, I mean. In 2015, rice was 7,000 naira in Nigerian markets. Today it's over 100,000 naira in many cases, and just a little less in other cases. Now, you pay 70,000 minimum wage, and the family cannot even buy a bag of rice. We are not talking of the groundnut oil, we are not talking of tomatoes, we are not talking of Maggi, we are talking of chicken, and you are not changing it. You come out as president, and you use an executive fiat, and you say you are going to tell them to bring down price. It's when prices, and you say you are a capitalist, and you say you understand the economics. Prices of goods are determined by market forces. Demand and supply, and then cost of production. And then you say you want to use your mouth to say, bring down the price. After the man has imported the trailer of rice from Kano to Benin, then you tell him, bring down the price. And that's why it has not gone down. Because there is no attempt by the government to think outside the box, to say, okay, what do we do? These are all very simple answers within the fingertips. But the government is not doing it. So people now say, Tinubu is wicked. They're justified to say it. Because everyone thought that as an economist or accountant that he claims to be, he understands these simple basic economics. That you just have to do certain things. If your executive order is, to sit down with the farmers and then make credit available to them and boost their production level for the year going forward until they're able to find their feet, food surplus will be in the market. If the driver that is driving rice from Kano to Enugu is not kidnapped on the road because you have refused to address security and kept in the bush, and the goods perish in the trailer, the onion he's taken from Abuja to Enugu perishes in the trailer because he has been kidnapped and kept in the bush, and then you have refused to do anything about that. And you think by executive fiat you are going to say they should bring down prices of things. You are deceiving yourself, and you think you are fooling us. You are not. So if government is so powerful that government does whatever it wants to do. except God says no. And God can never say no if you want to do good things. If government wants to bring down prices today, there are many models that have worked everywhere. And it still won't stop you from, having your trade balances.
Let's look at which party do you think can dislodge him? The opposition are virtually in disarray. Or is it the ADC coalition?
The opposition, if you take it as a superstructure, seem to be, disunited. But then within that disunited structure, you now have leaders who have followers, considerable number of followers inside the opposition coming together. As long as that leadership remains one, the opposition is one. It's a matter of short time, and you see all of them coalescing together. If you have Peter Obi sitting on the same table with Atiku, sitting on the same table with El-Rufai, I have just mentioned people from 3 different parties who are leaders of their parties, and not just leaders, visible, leaders who control majority, whose opinion matter in their party. Atiku from the PDP, Peter Obi from the Labour Party, and El-Rufai from APC coming together, and this is 2 years running, and they have been saying the same thing, and they have one common purpose, uniting them together. They have not, despite the fact that each one have tried to assert his own influence and assert his own, political persuasion, but they say we are united in one thing, and that unity has kept them together. And that unity is to remove Tinubu in 2027 because they believe that any other alternative among them is better than what you have now. Because what you have now is actually antithetical to the Nigerian spirit. It is inimical to our growth and development. So what you are going to have is a patriotic replacement. It doesn't matter whether the person is moving slow or moving fast, but it's going to be moving, and it will be moving forward. So that strong bond, because what unites people, you must ask yourself when you're analyzing, what holds these people together? If what holds them together is stronger than what keeps them apart, then you fear that coalition. That is why you find that as soon as the coalition, announced, Wike has never rested again. He was taking slots in channels, taking slots. He was just talking and talking, and in talking and talking, he exposed himself too much, denied his father, insulted everybody in this country, and showed his hatred, and with all due respect, ill-breeding. And we of the Niger Delta are so ashamed of him that such should be the icon, as he thinks that he is, of the Niger Delta. We are well schooled, disciplined, and cultured. He has insulted chiefs. When he was governor of Rivers State, he insulted chiefs publicly on television. Now he came to the National Front, insulted Atiku, insulted this, insulted that. How can you be so disagreeable and obnoxious? Because you want power? Now, can Tinubu trust such person? So the truth of the matter is that they have pushed the opposition into a coalition. He went to PDP, the oldest party in Nigeria, the most organized party as a then in Nigeria, that had produced 3 presidents in Nigeria. He went there, he has completely destroyed that party. In the wisdom of PDP leadership, people like Atiku left to go and form a new house where he can't enter. Are this progress? By any standard? In civilized countries, whatever the antagonism in ideologies between the Democrats and Republicans, for instance, both parties are functioning. You don't have any of the party in power like Republican going to try and destroy the Democratic Party. Why would you destroy the voice of opposition? Why would you want to rule instead of govern? So the truth of the matter is that the coalition is strong in principle and in one value. That value is that we love Nigeria. And having loved Nigeria, we will make any sacrifice to ensure that Nigeria is not pushed over the precipice and the cliff edge where we are standing right now. Because just show me which policy you will say, okay, give it a few years, this policy will now come to fruition and begin to produce dividend of democracy or development. Is it the policy of buying houses in Florida, which you are denying? Is it the policies where the government is wasting money? We have money and you are wasting money. You are servicing your cronies. Is it the policy where you have a legislature, a federal legislature, Senate and House of Rep, that has never said no to the president on any account, where they will sit down against their own, mandate and against their own self-worth and respect? The president will just go to Rivers State. If the president was going to declare war on behalf of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, that's how the House would have approved it. Because those are very serious matters that you must have recourse to the federal legislature before you take any decision on that. State of emergency, go and read it in the Constitution. So we see no trajectory towards development. And we see no apologies from the people who are running this deplorable government.
Okay, let's look at, if the choice was yours to make, which candidate or which person or persons do you think you would throw your weight behind?
The ADC must stand together as one. And then the ADC must show us internal democracy. If they are going to have any respect from Nigerians and because within that rank, you have so many people who can do the work. But the people outside right now are not looking at the individuals wholly. They are looking at the individuals, but they are saying the only way they can prove to us that they are now qualified to take us out of the woods is that they show example by having internal democracy. And that internal democracy will be demonstrated when they do a national convention. They have to be a primary to choose who is going to be the presidential candidate. They have said this repeatedly, that they are going to give us that primary as Nigeria. So whichever of them emerges in that coalition primaries, then we know that this man can lead us. Because that coalition is a coalition of the grassroots of Nigerians.
If you have a choice, who will you support?
I would rather not choose anyone here.
You believe in the ADC?
I believe in the ADC. I believe in the coalition. I'm a strong supporter of the coalition. I also believe that there's no alternative to the ADC right now in the political arrangement in Nigeria. The reason why there's no alternative is because this government of the day have put its tentacles on the other two major political parties, which is the PDP and the Labour Party. And the kind of tentacles he has put there is not something you can overcome, not even in this regime. So the only way to defeat such people is to be united around a common principle, a common value. And right now, ADC is that value, or what the ADC represents is that value. So I'm standing for the party and the coalition.
And what's your last word for Nigerians ahead of 2027?
Is that, as Charlie Boy said in 2023, our mumu don't do. If you are foolish enough to say that because of ethnicism or what you are getting now from the government of the day, you are going to stand to begin to play the devil's advocate, you are jeopardizing the future of your children, your community, and your generation. Every eye have seen that Tinubu has failed. He has done his best, but his best is not good enough. Let us ease him out. So Nigerians should come together under a coalition of Nigerians and ease out this present government. That's my word for it.